Assalamualaikum and hi. In this video, my friend and I will explain about hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon is a compound of hydrogen and carbon. For example, for hydrocarbon are methane, CH4, ethane, CH2, C2H6, and butane, C2H2. All these compounds are hydrocarbon as they are only made of hydrogen and carbon elements, which is evident from their respective molecular formula. There are also colorless gases that have very weak odor. So in this type of hydrocarbon, they are divided into two, which is saturated and unsaturated. Saturated is alkane, which is saturated is alkane and aliphatic group, while unsaturated are alkane and alkene that into aliphatic group, and arenes into aromatic group. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Azimanis Fidin binti Azmi. Today I'm going to cover about alkane, alkenes and alkynes. Alkane is a compound with carbon-carbon single bonds and carbon-hydrogen bonds, only with no functional groups. The general formula for an alkane with no ring in it must be CnH2n plus 2, where n is the number of carbons. Alkenes are saturated with hydrogen. They are also called aliphatic compounds. Alkenes can be linear, branches, or cyclic, which is cycloalkenes. Alkenes and alkynes. Alkenes and alkynes are unsaturated hydrocarbons. It contains carbon-carbon double bond and triple bond to which more hydrogen atoms can be added. The general formula for alkene is CnH2n. General formula of alkyne is CnH2n minus 2. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Humaira binti Habibullah. My metric number is DPC09220083. In this part, I will explain about structural formula, which is one of the important things when we talk about hydrocarbon. Alright, as you know, the molecular formula basically describes the number of different kinds of atom in a molecule. For example, this and this. While for a structural formula represent a two-dimensional model of how the atoms are bonded to each other. Each dash represents a bonding pair of electrons. Hydrocarbon has three types of structural formula: expanded, condensed, and skeletal. The first one is expanded. Expanded shows all the covalent bonds and atoms. Let's take a look at this structure. We can see each carbon will have 4 bonds. The second one is condensed, a system for writing organic compounds in a single line known as condensed structural formula. It also detailed than the molecular formula. For example, the molecular formula for butane is C4H10, while a condensed structural butane can be defined as CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. And lastly, skeletal structure. Skeletal structure doesn't show carbon and hydrogen atoms, but functional groups such as hydroxy, NH2, and halogen are shown. The bonds are represented by lines: single line for single bond, double line for double bond, and triple line for triple bond. How to determine the structure? In this case, we know the structure is butane as we determine carbon at the end of the line, and it also doesn't have a double line, which means it is an alkane group. That's all from me. I hope my explanation might give you some ideas about structural formula. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nobaki Fitrisha binti Muhammad Zamri, DPC 09220174. So I'm going to explain another type of hydrocarbon. The number one is unsaturated hydrocarbon. This compound consists of a single, double or triple bond between carbon-carbon atoms. The double bond compounds are called alkanes, and the triple bond compounds are called alkynes. The general formula of alkanes is CnH2n, and for alkynes the general formula is CnH2n2. Number 2 is aliphatic hydrocarbon. An aliphatic compound or aliphatic hydrocarbon is an organic compound containing hydrogen and carbon atoms that usually link together in chain via single, double bond or triple bond. Sometimes the chains are also branched, string or in the form of non-aromatic structure. Number 3 are saturated hydrocarbon. Carbon-carbon atoms and carbon-hydrogen atoms are held together by single bond. These single bonds compounds are simplest hydrocarbon. This type of hydrocarbon don't have double or triple bond. Number 4 is aromatic hydrocarbon. Aromatic is hydrocarbon that contains one or more benzene ring. And lastly, cycloalkenes. These hydrocarbon possess one or multiple carbon rings. The hydrogen atoms is attracted to carbon rings. That's all for me. Thank you.
For the last part of the video, I'm gonna explain the physical properties of alkane, alkene, and alkyne. Physical state of alkene at room temperature in 25 degrees Celsius and atmospheric pressure 1 atm. Note that carbon 1 until 4, which is methane, ethane, propane, and butane are gases. Carbon 5 to carbon 17 are liquids, while carbon 18 and above are solid. Boiling point of alkane increase with higher number of carbon on relative molecular mass. This is because as the size of alkanes increases, the strength of van der Waals forces between molecules increases. Besides that, alkanes are not soluble in water because they are non-polar, whereas water is polar solvent. It is soluble in non-polar solvents such as ether and tetrachloromethane because it is non-polar. And lastly, physical properties of alkenes and alkynes. For information, alkenes and alkynes are non-polar compounds, and the only intermolecular forces between them are London forces. So, they have very similar physical properties to alkenes. For the example, liquid at room temperature float on H2O insoluble in H2O.